7 minutes after 1 o'clock. Welcome to 7:02 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja, on this Tuesday, the 17th of June. Now, I did say we were going to touch on Father's Day. We're not going to do it today. We're definitely going to be doing it during the week. Happy Father's Day to all of you that stepped up in your role as dads and father figures. We will have a very interesting conversation about it during the week. But what we do have coming up on the show, we're going to be talking about BBC Brit and in particular Top Gear Australia. We'll be joined by Greg Dennis, who's a motoring influencer and a car reviewer, for that conversation, for some interesting viewing on our screens. And then we'll have our tech feature. We're talking about AI books and introducing kids to the basics of AI. We'll be joined by both of the co-authors of Digital Safety for Kids, Zanele, Ngwamba and Mpho Mokoena, for that conversation. Our series edition for today, together with Momentum Insure, the impact of climate change and severe weather on insurance. It is episode 3. We're talking about unpacking why people brush off weather warnings, how our thinking plays a role. And then in that conversation, we'll be joined by educational psychologist and life coach Matenji Consulting. Then in our car feature, we wrap up with a conversation about what young drivers are favoring in used and new vehicles today. As much as possible for the month of June, of Youth Month, we will be gearing our topics towards young people as it is their month, and hopefully we can empower many of them and you along the way in the different aspects of what this adulting thing entails. So get in touch with us. Give us a call, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 Afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Afternoon Spotlight Edition with BBC Brit. Find your happy every night. Now, Top Gear Australia is revving up for its debut on BBC Brit, and it's not your average car show. It's everything you love about Top Gear with an unapologetically Aussie edge, wild outback challenges, roaring engines, bold new hosts, and the kind of high-octane chaos only Australia can deliver. So joining us for this on 702 Afternoons is Greg Dennis, who is one of South Africa's most trusted and entertaining car reviewers, known for his honest takes on everything from budget beaters to supercars. Greg is here to unpack what makes this version of Top Gear unmissable. Greg, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
I am doing well, and I'm excited for this conversation because there is a part of me that has a need for speed. I've exposed myself. I've absolutely exposed myself. So tell us now, have you been a fan of the Top Gear franchise?
Oh, as far back as I can remember Top Gear being on TV, I've been a huge fan of it. I think if I just think back to TV in general, it always just reminds me of Top Gear. And I think, again, anybody who thinks of anything to do with cars on TV will think about Top Gear, for sure.
So if we're going to use, Top Gear went through a lot of changes from what we're used to in terms of hosts. And we know the role of a host is so critical to the tone of the show. Tell me what your initial thoughts are on Top Gear Australia.
So I think something that I've quite enjoyed about Top Gear Australia is the fact that they've also thought about the modern viewer today, right? So when going to look at hosts for their show in Australia, they've even taken a host that's become famous on YouTube. So he was always part of something called Mighty Car Mods. He's the guy who wears the cap backwards if you had to go and watch the show. And they've now taken an automotive enthusiast from YouTube and I put him into TV to be one of the hosts on Top Gear. So you can kind of see where things are changing and where things are going in the automotive space.
Be honest with me, Greg. it can be a hit or miss, right? Taking a person from an online content creator like YouTube, where they're in charge of everything themselves. They don't really have to answer to anybody except the rules of YouTube. And now they go into a space which was already existing, has its own format and things. Do you think that this particular host and others that have transitioned did well?
I think they did. And I think when you've got the opportunity to be yourself and try and make something new or something existing, I think that that's always fun. And speaking from experience, if I can just sit back, have fun, speak to the camera and do what I do best without having to think about me going back to edit something, I think that that's always fun too. I mean, because being on Top Gear, you've got an entire production team. So they're going to be the ones handling everything from that point of view, and you just get to sit back and be yourself. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of trying to, be and do what someone expects from you as that creator. And on a show like Top Gear, I think you get to really be yourself and have fun.
Okay, so in terms of, I mean, this is Top Gear Australia. What have you picked up as some of the interesting nuances about this particular Top Gear?
Well, the cool thing about this is that they still go and do international challenges. They're going overseas. They're going to Italy, and they're driving supercars and having a lot of fun. But I think from a South African perspective, because we're so similar to the Australians, is just the way that they talk and, the conversations that they have between each other and the banter. I think that that's all still there, and it's definitely something we can relate to as being a very similar type of nation and personality.
Tell us a little bit more about the other hosts. I mean, we were all familiar with the previous, they were a trio, right, from the original, and the format has kind of evolved. I'm still like, when are we seeing a lady there? But maybe it's still going to be a bit of a while.
No, I mean, I can only hope that does happen soon, because, I mean, there's so many people in this space, females that are doing so well knowing cars and, doing so well in the automotive space that it's bound to probably happen sooner or later, and I hope that it does. But regards to the other, the other hosts from the show, very popular within the Australian space, but I think that it's always nice to go and watch a show and kind of get used to seeing these new people and, begin to see how new people can take and run with Top Gear and kind of make a success of it is what I was really looking forward to with the show like this. But I was more relating to, the guy, his name is Blair, from the YouTube perspective, taking on this presenter role. That's what's made me excited to see how someone in this space can do it.
So you being, a motoring influencer and a car reviewer, share with us what perspective you walk into reviewing cars and then reviewing shows about cars, because on the one hand, I mean, we have a car feature on this show and we have a variety of correspondents and guests that range from those that do the technical parts of cars and can tell you anything about a car. And then you get those who are enthusiasts and speak from the perspective of, this is what I know I'm looking for. I know when I review cars, I am always like viewing from the mom perspective. Can a car seat fit in here? How safe is it? So I'm curious about your perspective when you are reviewing cars. Do you come in completely open-minded? Do you kind of measure against the other cars in the groups? And then what do you look for in a car show?
Oh, completely. I mean, when reviewing cars, you have to come in as open-minded as possible, and you're looking at the car for what it is and the segment that it's competing in. So I can't 1 week come out of reviewing a Mercedes-Benz C-Class and then the next week go into reviewing a Suzuki Swift and say, oh, well, this Swift has got plastic all over and it's got cloth seats and it's so slow, and you can't do that, right? So you need to look at a Swift with the mindset of someone buying a Swift is going to expect these sorts of things when paying in that price bracket. So you've got to be completely honest and look at the car and judge it on what it is. But looking at a car show, I mean, having to review a car show, I'm the one who's just going to sit back and enjoy it. reviewing it is not really a thing that I think I would do. But I'd rather just sit there saying, oh, I know how to do that, or I've driven something similar. I can relate with the feeling that the guy's going through right now. But it's more just from an entertainment point of view. Sit back, relax, watch the show, and, look forward to the one that's coming up the next week.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to find out more about what we can look forward to on Top Gear Australia, but not just that, also on BBC Brit that we have access to here. But I want to hear from all of you that are car enthusiasts and fans of car shows and fans of Top Gear. What do you look for in a car show? And yes, will you be tuning in to watch Top Gear Australia? 18 minutes after 1.
Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first timers in 702's Walk the Talk. Tickets on primemediaplus.com.
Want to celebrate Women's Day in style? Then get your tickets as Grammy Award-winning singers Anthony Hamilton and Joe Thomas come together to celebrate the incredible women of Mzansi on the 9th of August. Happening at the iconic DP World Wanderers Stadium in Sandton, they'll be joined by South Africans, multi-award-winning singers, the incomparable Zonke, Sjava and Vusi Nova. Get your tickets now on CompuTicket or webtickets.co.za. Brought to you by Soulful Night, Vertex Events and 702.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult at 3,469. Just had a fantastic 2-hour meeting. It was so productive that we accomplished nearly as much as I could have done with one well-written email.
Hating the corporate 9 to 5? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's easy and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 is looking for a small business owner that talks a big game and delivers even bigger results. So if you're a small business that consistently dares to innovate, expand, and better your bottom line, you could walk away with 200,000 Rand cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package. So enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za. Then every day this week from 6 a.m. catch 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa to find out if you're a finalist in the Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Your voice.
Your life.
Your afternoon radio.
On 702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabotja.
21 minutes after 1 o'clock, and we are chatting about Top Gear Australia that you'll be able to watch on BBC Brit. And we take your calls on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702 with your questions and comments as we are having a discussion with Greg Dennis, who is a motoring influencer and car reviewer. Now, we have been chatting about what makes Top Gear Australia different and special with the hosts and the talents, but we can get to know a little bit more about Greg. Greg, just in terms of your passion for motoring, what was it that really drew you into the space and into becoming a car reviewer?
Sure, and it's for me, weirdly, when I grew up, I knew nothing about cars. So that was always the strangest thing. But as I started to get older and, started to have a bit more of an interest in cars and things, it actually started in COVID, weirdly enough. I was sitting at my dining room table and I thought to myself, I love taking pictures of cars. I love cars. Let me see if I can elevate this somehow. So I started my Instagram page. I got into social media, started posting content, went to car events, and eventually got my first test car from an automotive manufacturer. And, kind of the rest is history there. And since then, I've grown my presence on social media. I've reviewed and spent a lot of time with different cars, been to different car events. But if I had to think of something that one thing that kind of inspired me to really love cars and take an interest in them, it was always a poster that I got out of the Sunday Times, which was of a Golf 5 GTR back then, but it had this muzzle on the front of it, and it was just so aggressive, and I was like, this is cool, and I want to know a lot more about this car, and I want to drive it one day, and luckily enough, I did.
And look at you. I mean, I know there are some people listening, young people in particular, who might be thinking to themselves, how does one even begin to get into the space?
Yeah.
But from what you rightly said, which I love, is you just start where you are with what you have. And eventually brands will start to see and hopefully say, come review this car for us, because I think people now are interested in the average Joe, not like the person who is super technical about reviewing cars.
Yeah. No, completely. And I get a lot of DMs and messages asking me, I want to do what you do. How do I get into it? I'm in school. What do I need to do to be able to do what you do? And the first thing I tell people is, I'm not a journalist, and I'll never say that I'm a journalist. I never studied journalism, but I'm just a guy who loves cars and has an opinion about the cars that he drives. And when they say, like, where do I start? The first thing I say to them is, stop thinking about where you start and just do it. Start a social media pages. Get yourself out there. Have a presence, and just start. Post pictures. Create your own way of posting content, and just have your own voice and your own style in the way that you do it. And eventually, you'll stand out, and you'll have your own presence and your own pages that people will start to, notice you a lot more.
And I would even add, reach out to those that you know, even if they're like, you can't drive my car, open it, sit in it, shoot in it, and push and do that. So then how did Top Gear kind of inspire your style in what you do?
Sure. And watching Top Gear before I even started the car stuff was also always really cool, because you'd watch them drive these fast cars, you'd watch them on track, but then you'd also just watch them driving average cars that aren't even that popular, but then they would be tweaking with them and playing around with the cars, doing cool challenges. And I think that's what really, that's what kind of inspired me, was just having fun with cars in general. It doesn't always have to be a weird, boring review about, look at this car, this is the features it has, but it's put your personality into it. And I think coming from Top Gear, it was the personalities that I really resonated with. So, the big personalities, the fun, the comedic side of it, the puns, and I think that's what inspired me to kind of do the content I do, but remain being myself and be funny and be punny, because that's who I am. I like to have fun with the content I do. I like to throw in a couple jokes. I like to throw in a lot of puns, but still try and keep the content to what it is. It's about the car, but I'm just trying to do it in my own way, just the way that Top Gear did.
I thought you were going to tell me that the passion for cars started when you were a kid and you stole your uncle's car, because my brother and cousins, when they were like all younger than 12, decided to take my uncle's buggy and they drove it, and the hidings they got that day. Was I not glad that I was not a part of the mess of stealing the car? Luckily, nothing happened after that. So what kind of content can viewers expect from the show? And maybe what was a special key takeout for you, just particularly with Australia? Would you say that the fact that it's Australians and their sense of humor is completely different, or is it around the locations they chose, or is it around the vehicles they chose?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's the fact that they're Australians. It's an audience that we can relate to. It's the fun that they have. It's the banter that the guys have got together. And yes, they travel to all sorts of different countries. I don't want to obviously give too much away, but you'll see a lot of that. They're driving supercars. They're driving all the fun cars that we can only dream of driving one day. Hopefully I will. I want to get into a Ferrari one day too. Hopefully that does happen.
Listen, it's coming. It's coming.
We're putting it out there.
Okay, and finally, what else do you think of tuning into BBC Brit 4, DSTV channel 120, because they've got so many amazing things on their lineup, and they are currently pushing the campaign of Find Your Happy every night. So you've got your Fridays being for Top Gear Australia. Sounds perfect. So you can enjoy your adult beverages at the time. You've got your Sundays having The Masked Singer. You've got your Tuesdays delving into drama with Beyond Paradise and Death Valley. And then Wednesdays, you've got trivia with The Weakest Link. So other than cars, what else are you fancying there, Greg?
I think it's going to have to be The Weakest Link. If you think about a show like Top Gear, that's just as iconic. I think there's nothing more iconic than The Weakest Link. And also, Top Gear having a different change in presenters. The same thing's happening on Top Gear as well. So, there was always that stern, straight-faced lady. Her name was Anne. So now she's no longer the host anymore. But now they've now got a new host there. His name is Ramesh. But the show is still going to keep to how it was. And if there was anything you wanted to do on a Wednesday, for me, it's The Weakest Link. I love trivia.
Listen, I'm already being those people who's like, why did they change her? I mean, change is tough, especially when somebody's being a host since you were a child. So I definitely will be checking out The Weakest Link. And of course, I'll be checking out The Masked Singer, because it's always super fantastic trying to guess who is singing behind all of those notes. Greg David Dennis, where can we find you on the socials?
Quite easily, you can find me at Greg Dennis Reviews on social media. That's going to be Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. Simply type it in and you'll find me.
Type it in and you will find him, and make sure you tune in. The first time in BBC Brit history, they're going to be having Top Gear Australia joining the channel, and where you are able to find it, DSTV channel 120, that's BBC Brit, where you will get to meet the hosts Blair Jocelyn, Bo Ryan and Jonathan Lapaglia, and they will be taking on interesting stunts and making for some fun banter and commentary, if I'm going to call it that, and not just for petrol heads, but also for casual fans alike. Now sit back and enjoy with Happy Time Picks, your go-to spot for the best in feel-good viewing, with a twist, brought to you by BBC Brit, from brand new series and returning favorites to underrated gems you might have missed. Happy Time Picks dives into the best of BBC Brit. Expect special guest chats, clever quizzes and unforgettable characters that keep the good vibes going. Whether you're after laughs, drama or something totally unexpected, BBC Brit has your next happy watch lined up. Tune in, relax and find your next happy watch. It's 1:30, time for your latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Relebogile. It's Zingisachirwa. The city of Tshwane has announced that it has written off more than 4.3 billion rand of customer debt through its incentive and debt relief scheme introduced in March this year. The program, approved by council in February, is part of the city's commitment to provide financial relief to hard-pressed residents, businesses and deceased estates. A defense lawyer in the Senzo Meyiwa trial has argued that if his client is not granted a dental examination by a surgeon, the court would be denying him his dignity and respect. Lawyers for alleged gunman Mpho are arguing for him to be taken for an examination after the state led evidence that suggests that he had a gold tooth at the time of Meyiwa's murder. This was revealed last week during testimony by cell phone data analyst Sergeant Moses Mabaza. And Action SA has issued a dismal report card for the Government of National Unity 1 year since its formation. Assessing the GNU's performance in 6 categories, the party has awarded F grades for ethical leadership, economic growth, service delivery and law and order. Those are the headlines this EWN, and more at 2 p.m. or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage in the city of Tshwane, there's slow-moving traffic in the Hermanstad area leaving Pretoria CBD on Eskia Mphahlele. This is between Van der Hof and the R80, while in Ekurhuleni there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's in the Kempton Park, Tembisa area. Leaving OR Tambo International Airport heading towards Pretoria, slow-moving traffic, R21 northbound between the R23 Benoni off-ramp and the Papfontein R25 off-ramp. Also slow-moving traffic. That's if you are leaving the Joburg CBD on the M2 westbound, approaching Main Reef Road. In Alberton, also traffic a bit sluggish, heading towards the Joburg CBD on the R59 northbound between Michelle Avenue and the Reading Interchange. And finally, if you are in the West Rand, in the Roodepoort area, Durban Deep, slow-moving traffic heading towards Leratong on this is on Randfontein Road between Centenary and Adcock. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons.
3 to 6.
Given that it's, I would assume not allowed for individual soldiers to give interviews and so on, are you guys going to propose some kind of structured public commission, an inquiry of some kind where people can speak their minds, but with the protection of this being a sanctioned discussion as opposed to just individuals speaking their minds?
The union is calling on a commission of inquiry. We don't only need to know what happened on 26th. We need to understand or to make public and hear from the soldiers themselves.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Ready to discover the wild beauty and vibrant charm of Western Australia with South African Airways. Getting there is easier than ever with direct flights to Perth 5 times a week from South Africa. Explore world-famous beaches, the magic of the outback, and Perth's buzzing city life, all just a direct flight away. Book your seat today at flysaa.com and experience the wonders of Western Australia with SAA.
Get ready, South Africa. The 129th Hollywood Bets Durban July gallops into Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse on Saturday, 5th July. It's more than a race. It's the heartbeat of Mzansi. This year's theme, Marvels of Mzansi, celebrates our rich culture, vibrant heritage, and breathtaking beauty. From thrilling horse racing to show-stopping fashion and powerful performances by Zolani Mahola, Lira, Mafigi Zolo, and more. Feel the pulse of a nation in celebration. Tickets are flying fast. Secure yours now at Ticket Pro. The Hollywood Bets Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private. Because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel. And order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's earn rules and limits apply.
Would you rather be stuck in traffic or sipping coffee on a sea view balcony? Southern Sun offers exceptional value and the chance to explore new destinations with Sunbreaks Winter from just 1,390 Rand per family room per night, including breakfast for 2. Make it a family escape. Kids under 18 stay and eat free when sharing with adults. Book at southernsun.com and earn an extra 20% in Sun Rands if you're a frequent guest rewards member. Sunbreaks Winter, your mid-year escape starts now.
Spend your afternoon
With Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
24 minutes to 2 o'clock in our tech feature for today. We're talking AI books and introducing kids to the basics of AI. It is Youth Month, so of course we're going to take every opportunity for all our young people to be empowered. And we take your calls with your questions on 011 883 0702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. I'm joined in studio by the co-authors of Digital Safety for Kids, Zanele Ngwamba, as well as Mpho Mokoena. Ladies, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Relebogile.
Please tell us, where does this all begin? Lithomile kae?
Sure. Okay. No, thank you so much, Relebogile, and good afternoon to the listeners. So this started as a conversation between colleagues. So we started gravitating towards each other because of where we grew up and also our varsity experience. So
when you say colleagues, what was the environment you were in as colleagues?
So we met at work.
What industry was it in? Tech already?
We are in telecoms, yeah.
Oh, in
Yeah,
telecoms.
we're in telecoms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's where we met. So as we started sharing, we realized that our stories were similar. We both come from underserved communities, and our varsity experience was also similar. I, for instance, when I went to varsity, I was requested to write a program in something called Hello World. So I was supposed to use like a programming language to code. But at the time, I knew nothing about coding, so I wrote it on a piece of paper. And then when I went for my labs, my tutor was shocked to see that I had written this thing on a piece of paper and I didn't do it on a computer.
Shocked in a bad way, not a good way, ne?
In a, okay, I think we need to start from...
In a, okay.
Okay, all right. So let's see how we can support you, because clearly you're not too familiar with the computer. And Mpho had a similar experience where when she started varsity, so we're both in tech, where she was asked to program a bouncing ball. And so you can only imagine how that story went. So in us talking about our similarities, we thought, how do we now empower other kids so that they don't have to go through what we went through with varsity, because we had to work 10 times as hard for us to get up to speed with everything, with technology, with using a computer, with writing code. So we thought, let us start it from the beginning, like very early, because if you're in high school and you already don't know anything about code, it's already too late.
Well, here's my curiosity, right? Because I would, if I had to think of an easy comparison for everybody who doesn't know what writing code even means and what that looks like and why the handwritten is like completely disconnected. It's almost like if you get a maths equation and instead of solving for X, you write a sentence when you're supposed to give numbers. Is that a fair comparison?
It is a fair comparison.
Yes. So now for you as ladies, I mean, I'm curious, how did you qualify? Was the qualifying just based on your maths and science marks that you qualified to get in, and now they're expecting you to come in with a certain level of experience and it's not there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I did computer science at the end of the day at VET. But in terms of how I got into computer science, I mean, I was good in maths. I just knew that I wanted to do something related to maths, but I didn't know what. And when I went to register, luckily one of the lecturers, he saw my marks as like, given that you're good in maths, definitely be good in computer science. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I ended up doing computer science. So at the beginning, it was because of my maths marks and my physical science marks that I did get in my matric, then which led me to computer science. I mean, it was a struggle at the beginning. Yeah, I wanted to deregister.
Really?
Yes. I was at that point. I'm like, no, because I'm used to having high marks. And now all of a sudden I'm getting low marks. So for me, it was quite depressing. So I had to push and go the extra mile compared to the other kids. And later on, when talking to the other kids who went to the Model C class or the Model C schools, they're like, no, first year was so easy. I mean, we did this in grade 10. I'm like, what?
So those are things they did in grade 10. And for you, so maybe then share with us your computer science. What was it that you learned? I think the last time I did computer science was like grade 9, which was a long time ago. I can't even remember what we did. All I remember is zeros and ones. Which is like...
At least we knew zeros and ones. We didn't know zeros and ones.
Yes, we had to
base.
start from scratch at
So
varsity.
what computer, like when you say you were learning computer science, what were you being taught? Was it just like the basics of typing into Word?
We didn't even do Word. So we went straight into the hardcore. Like the assumption is that everyone knows Word by now, right? You are in a computer science class. So which means when everyone is learning the hardcore things, which is how to program. I remember like the first program that they gave us, the first semester was to program a calculator.
I see.
Yes. So, I mean, that's deep. I don't know Word. I don't know PowerPoint. So at the same time, when I'm learning how to program, so using Python, I also have to learn how to use like a computer to start with. Yes. So those were some of the challenges that we had to go through. Then after that, we had to program a snake game. So
like the one we used to have
yes,
on the
the one
North.
we used to have on our phone.
So it's got deeper and deeper as we went. But pretty much, I mean, everything that you are seeing now, if you want to retrieve any information, when someone now is going on Google, there is someone at the back end who have to program that so that when you're questioning, Google can give you the answer. So there's some sort of, so it needs to take your question and analyze your question and to retrieve what will be the best answer based on your question and what it has seen before. Yeah.
Okay, and I think that background and context is so important because, as you touched on, it's unfortunate that not all education is equal.
Yeah.
You know, it also depends, you know, where you went.
Yeah.
And not just where you went, if you had access to a computer at home, if the only time you could access is at the computer lab, as what they called it, or at the library, that quite limits you. So now you two ladies realized you're in the same situation. And I'm assuming at some point you both wanted to quit and the other one was like, Chomi, we must stick through. We must hang in there. And I don't blame you because you might be like, what's the point if it becomes discouraging? So in this process, you now have your assignments that you're handing in like this. Did your teacher at the time or lecturer say, I'm going to give extra time, or did they send you elsewhere to say, guys, I need you to learn the basics?
Well, for me, it was a brief, okay, so we're expecting you to use this programming language. These are the sources you need to look at for you to learn how to write in that programming language. I mean, our consultations were not that long, so it wasn't a hand-holding kind of process. It was referring me to resources I could use for me to write that program. And then I had to go and queue by the labs. Because at the time, I mean, you don't have internet at home. You don't have a computer at home. So now you have to go and queue by the computer labs to get access to a computer so that you try to access those resources. And then you try to learn and see how to write that specific program. So those are some of the challenges. Because now we have digital devices with internet, some things you can do over the phone. But then, you had a device, but you didn't have internet, unlimited internet. So, I mean, for me, that's how I went about it. And
yeah.
Mpho?
I mean, for me, it's similar to your story. I mean, I had to go the extra mile. I had to make sure that after the lecture, I go and I'm studying. I was always at the computer labs, making sure that I do catch up. I mean, at the end of the day, we made it, right?
and I'm glad you're able to show it's possible, particularly with it being Youth Month. There are many young people who have not received certain opportunities but have the dreams of being there. And it just goes to show it's okay. You can actually play catch up. It is possible. You don't have to have gone to what is referred to as a Model C school or even have a computer at home. It might be a lot more challenging than the other students, but it is possible. So now you both decided, no, man, we need to create something.
Yes.
So tell me about all of that part of the journey.
Okay, so we realized that, we could be oblivious now to other kids who may be in similar situations as us. I mean, we look at our kids, they're probably in a better off situation than other kids that we may not know about. So we figured, so initially the inspiration was our kids, we like, okay, they need to know about the careers of the future. We need to make sure that they are well trained. Pretty much we don't want them to get left behind. But in that discussion, we thought we must also think about kids who are like us. At that point in time, there's certain information we didn't have access to. And we realized, okay, how best do we deliver this? When do we start the conversation? That's number one. We said if it's in high school, we're already too late. So let's start it early while they're still kids. And spark their imagination. We're not saying they'll fully get it, but we need to start having those conversations around AI, around digital safety, because, let's be honest, our kids are now active participants in the digital world, be it through the tablets that they have, be it through the phone. Sometimes they use our devices if they don't have.
It is so scary.
It is.
Every time I open my phone, there are 30 new pictures and videos, and then things that
Yeah.
I don't even know how it's done. Like video calls, suddenly there's tears and dog ears.
It's true.
These people are fast.
Yeah, they are, and they learn quicker than us. Like,
Yeah.
it scares me. Initially, I thought I'll be way ahead in terms of knowing tech compared to my son. But now, I mean, he knows way better than me. He can use those devices way better than me. He teaches me a lot. So, I mean, for us to cover that gap, we decided let us write books, not just to cover the AI side. So it's 2 books. It's AI for kids, but also to cover the responsibility with using these devices, where we now wrote a book that talks on digital safety for kids, basically teaching them how to use these devices responsibly, making sure that they don't expose themselves to certain risks. Because, I mean, the internet comes with a lot of risks. And, I mean, we assume that the kids will know what to do at a point in time. But, I mean, most times they don't know what to do. Even the parents don't know what to do when things go wrong on the internet. So we thought, let's write 2 books to cover exactly that. And we're also busy. You know, us as parents, we're busy. In as much as we try to monitor those devices, the time limits us in terms of how much we can do. So it's important to make sure that we train them up, because at some point in time, they'll go out there and they won't have mommy to ask whether this is right or this is wrong. So we must skill them up in making sure that they're able to make the right decisions and they know how to act when things go wrong on the internet.
So how did you start to simplify the language and, you know, just for these books so that young people can understand? Because already it's hard enough for adults where we think we're tech savvy because we're engaging with our baby boomer parents who don't know how to like access YouTube on the TV.
Yeah.
And then now they are showing us things and we're like, oh my gosh, it's our turn to not know.
So we had to make sure. I mean, I'm a qualified data scientist and Zanele is the ethical hacker. So I had to write a book and make sure that she understands what I wrote. And I give to her, do you think the 5-year-old will understand this? I mean, from where we started and the version that we released, they are very far off from each other. I mean, they were quite needy. So we had to tone it down so that kids can understand and it's more engaging for them and in a fun way. And also, I mean, just bring it to what they're already exposed to on their daily basis. Because there's plenty of AI that is already out there. But just that, I guess, nowadays, when you're talking about AI, everyone is thinking about ChatGPT. Whereas AI has always been there. I mean, it goes back as to 1956. That's when they were first discussing in a conference discussing about AI. Just that now, I guess, it's more out there compared to before. Now everyone is more aware, but there were already a lot of things that are already out there. Like, for example, using a GPS on your way home. Before, you had to call maybe someone who knows the place where you're going to for them to give you direction in terms of where it is. So it was more kind of like trying to make kids aware of what already exists in their daily lives and for them to be able to recognize it. And also, I mean, in terms of being on the digital safety one, we also made sure that when we are saying, I mean, this is for kids, what is it that they are doing on their daily basis on their devices? And how do we bridge that gap? How do you decide if this app is a good app or is a bad app? And if it's a bad app, what do you do because you already have it on your device? So we try to make sure that we bring it down to kids so that they can understand on what they are already exposed to on their daily basis, yeah.
I was actually going to ask, what are some of those real life examples that you use to help teach them, not just about the digital safety, but just about AI in general?
Yeah. So in terms of the AI, we did bring a lot of examples that are already out there, which I already spoke about, the GPS one. So there's quite plenty that we've already used. The ones that we've used in the book, I mean, some of them is stuff that they have never been exposed to, but also just to start creating that critical thinking in their heads to think about what's beyond what they're already seeing. I mean, I saw even one of the famous brands, they have this fridge where if you knock on that fridge, it can actually tell you based on what's available in your fridge, what you can cook. I mean, that's AI. So also, I mean, if for kids, so we did create a lot of examples for them to be having those moments when they are reading the book and say, like, oh, okay, something like that. Even if in my house, maybe we don't have that fridge, but someone else out there, they do have that. So it starts creating that, exposing them to that level of thinking. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you took that approach, because some might be of the view to be like, don't use examples of things they don't interact with, but you actually need to prepare them for a world where they might interact with those things, like that fancy fridge or like whatever a type of software that is usable, that you input basic information and it comes out with all of these things. Do you think, ladies, that with the teaching of the digital era and all of the AI, our kids are getting, in inverted commas, lazier? Because we come from the generation of like opening encyclopedias and we are forced to consume information a certain way, whereas, and also come up with solutions and have critical thinking. Do you think, and this could just be a personal view and not based on your book at all, that there is that thing of, but I'm worried that my child will never know how to?
Yeah. Sure.
So for me, I don't think it's making them more like lazier or anything. I mean, if maybe I was to compare to my childhood, I mean, obviously, I didn't have to go through the yellow book.
Girl, I went through the yellow book, the telecom yellow pages, babes. Even the map book. I was in the era of map book.
But now comparing to that, I mean, what I was exposed to, I mean, most of the time I remember we'll have to go look at the magazines or the newspapers and then try to grab information from that. But now comparing it to that, I think we're kind of limited to the magazines that are already available in your house. Whereas with these kids, I mean, they have so much resources in their hands, so that when you are researching about a topic, like you have broad information about this topic that you're researching on. So now it's about you I mean, you have to go through all of this lot of information for you to pull in what's relevant for what you want to answer or the topic that is at hand for you. But for us, I feel like we are limited, given that if at my house they only have one magazine, which means probably I'll only have information from that one magazine, compared to someone where at their house they had 100 magazines, for example. So which means they had a lot of variety in terms of what they can bring in for whatever project that they were working on. So I feel like now it bridges that gap from someone who had a lot of resources and one who's just one magazine as an example. Now we all have access to this internet. We can all, at the end of the day, it's about what I deem as important for me for this project that I'm working on currently. Yeah.
I want to look at some of the questions on the WhatsApp line, 072-702-1702. One says, I have a question for Zanele. What advice does she have for someone that wants to switch from healthcare to tech, considering the growth of AI right now?
You need to start with first principles. So, like Mpho said, I'm an ethical hacker, but I call myself a first principle hacker, in that I started from the beginning, like from learning about a computer and how it works. Not just looking at a computer and a keyboard and typing things on Word, basically learning everything about how it's made, the RAM that makes the computer, the CPUs, so that I understand how it interacts with everything that's built on top of a computer. And then from there, I did the learnings like in terms of networking, the applications. So for someone who's interested, I'm not saying it's impossible. It definitely is possible, but they need to start from the beginning, learning the basics about computers, learning about networking, programming, writing applications. And then from there, I think they'll have a good base to understand AI, because now people tend to take things at face value, where you just like interacting with ChatGPT, but you don't know how it's made, you don't know how it's querying, you don't know how to prompt it in a way that it gives you the information, like the correct information that you need to come out of it. So it's really important for people to start learning the basics. And then from the basics, it becomes easier to understand how a specific technology works. And when certain things are not working, you can easily pick it up.
Where can we get the books, ladies?
Oh, so currently our books are available on Macro Marketplace, which is the online version of Macro. And we also have our own website, which is www.ai guardians.co.za.
And of course, if everybody visits the website for partnership opportunities or bulk orders for schools and NGOs, please do so. Let us support these sisters that are doing such a fantastic initiative. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm glad that you took something out of your own stories that was challenging and you've turned it into something super, super positive. Mpho, Zanele, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Much appreciated.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
12 EFF supporters have died in a crash in KwaZulu-Natal. A truck struck a bus the group was traveling in last night on the R24 near Vryheid. The EFF members were coming from a Youth Day rally in Durban. Party Provincial Secretary Vugani Ndlovu says they will offer assistance where needed.
The EFF will definitely be visiting the families. We'll announce shortly about the visit to the families.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Need the right tools to run your small business? With Nedbank, you get the latest Visa, MasterCard, and Amex accepting card payment device delivered to you within 48 hours. Enjoy getting your payments straight into your Nedbank account on the same day. Plus, you could get 100% back on the purchase price of the device. Apply on the Nedbank Money app today. Join the bank that's best for your small business. Nedbank, licensed financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
In 50 meters, turn left. You missed the turn.
Okay, technically.
Recalculating.
But the new Haval H7 loves a detour. It's off-road capable yet refined and even a little wild.
A little wild?
Write your own story in the new Haval H7 from 6,999 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's and book a test drive. Go with more. Go with the new GWM Haval H7.
In 50 meters, make a U-turn.
Oh, shush.
Just like your last breakup, commitment is messy. Leave the chaos behind and find something new to hold on to with Rentosa. Discover subscriptions on tech, appliances and more that will make your heart go bum, bum, bum. No red flags here, only green flags like month-to-month payments, 0 penalty fees and the flexibility to upgrade or downgrade whenever. Not feeling the connection? No ghosting needed. Simply return it for something new that'll give you that spark you're looking for. Commitment is messy. Just Rentosa it. Download the app, visit the website and join our WhatsApp channel.
Year in, year out, we're fixing tires faster than a Formula One pit crew. My team is on top of things like tire whisperers. If an unforeseen accident were to happen in my workshop, at least I've got My Way business insurance to keep the wheels turning.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
In the next hour of the show, our series edition with Momentum Insurance, episode 3, unpacking why people brush off weather warnings and how our thinking plays a role. And then our car feature, what young drivers are favoring in used and new vehicles today. It's 2 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Zingisa Chirwa. The KwaZulu-Natal Transport Department has revised down the death toll of an accident involving EFF members to 10. The group was travelling from Umlazi when the accident occurred near Vryheid. Earlier today, authorities said 12 people had died in the accident, but after an investigation, the department now says the accident claimed the lives of 3 women and 7 men. Transport MEC Siboniso Dumo.
In time, the number will remain is 10. Those who have perished, we just want to be emphatic on that point and want to apologize for the inconvenience in terms of preliminary stages.
Duma says some of the families are yet to be informed about the tragedy.
It remains a sensitive matter because we have not even met almost all the families.
The city of Tshwane has announced that it has written off more than 4.3 billion rand of customer debt through its incentive and debt relief scheme introduced in March this year. The program, which was approved by council in February, is part of the city's commitment to provide financial relief to hard-pressed residents, businesses and deceased estates. The city says 2.4 billion rand was written off for more than 85,000 indigent accounts, which include child-headed homes receiving complete debt write-offs. Meanwhile, more than 1.8 billion rand was written off for more than 31,000 inactive accounts. City spokesperson Lindela Mashiro.
However, these customers
are still responsible for the payment of any consumption exceeding the allocated subsidy of 100 kilowatts hour of electricity and 12 kiloliters of water. The city is once more urging consumers to continue paying for their municipal accounts in full and on time at any approved external pay point or third party.
A defense lawyer in the Senzo Meyiwa trial has argued that if his client is not granted a dental examination by a surgeon, the court would be denying him dignity and respect. Lawyers for the alleged gunman Mpho Simncube are arguing for him to be taken for an examination after the state-led evidence that suggests that he had a gold tooth at the time of Meyiwa's murder. This was revealed last week during the testimony by cell phone data analyst Sergeant Moses Mabasa. The defense wants this to be confirmed by both a state and private dentist. Mncube's lawyer, Advocate Charles Mnisi, has pointed out that the evidence by the state was a shocker to his client.
Mr. Mncube, Franite Fiel van die Wêreld, he does not request a lot of this world. He simply says to the court, can I please be afforded the opportunity and the necessary amenities, which are facilities, to go and prepare my defense, even before I start to cross-examine Mr. Mabaso.
And Action SA has issued a dismal report card for the Government of National Unity 1 year into its formation. Assessing the GNU's performance in 6 categories, the party has awarded 4 F grades for ethical leadership, economic growth, service delivery and law and order. It described the coalition government of being bereft of ideas, lacking in policy direction and strategy, and of not having reformed government. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
With only 6 seats in Parliament, Action SA says it's had to step into the breach of being an opposition that's sorely lacking in holding government to account. Saturday marked 1 year since political parties signed a statement of intent to form a government. But Action SA's national chairperson, Michael Beaumont, says this is insufficient and a coalition agreement is needed to set policy direction.
In the absence of that, what you really have is a GNU that has become an implementing agent for the ANC.
Meanwhile, Parliamentary Leader Athol Trollip says with up to R500 million spent on international travel in the first year of government, the GNU also lacks ethical leadership.
We have a new government with 70% support of Parliament, and not one of the new ministers and their plethora of deputy ministers have signed a performance agreement.
Overall, the party says over the past year, the GNU has not moved the needle in improving the lives of millions of struggling South Africans. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Gold is trading at $3,391.68 an ounce. The rand is 17.82 to the dollar, 24.17 to the pound, and 20.60 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $74.72 a barrel.
In Alberton, heading towards Joburg, there's an accident seen on the R59 northbound. That's before the Swartkopies off-ramp, causing heavy delays all the way from Kliprefir Drive. Try to avoid that route if you can. Yeah, that's if you're leaving Vereeniging heading towards Joburg. Rather use Old Vereeniging Road or the R55 or the R82 as an alternative. There's also slow-moving traffic. That's in the Kempton Park area on the R21 northbound between the R23 Benoni off-ramp and the R25. And also look out for slow-moving traffic leaving the Pretoria CBD. That's in Hermanstad on Eskiamphahlele between Van der Hof and the R80.
It's a fine day in Gauteng today. Temperatures peaked between highs of 18 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the KwaZulu-Natal Transport Department has revised down the death toll of an accident involving EFF members to 10.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja.
Live, streaming countrywide.
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM.
7 minutes after 2 o'clock. It is the second and final hour of 702 Afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. And we're going to be getting into our series edition on Momentum Insure as we chat about the impact of climate change and severe weather on insurance. This is episode 3. You can catch up with episode 1 and 2 on primemediaplus.com, or you can download the Prime Media Plus app. And today we are joined by Matenji Consulting, educational psychologist and life coach. Give us a call as we talk about unpacking why people brush off weather warnings and how our thinking plays a role on 011 883 0702. SMS us 31702. Tweet at Relebogile M at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 Afternoons and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702
Series Edition.
The series edition with me, Relebogile Mabotja, is brought to you by Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Now, severe weather is becoming more frequent, yet many South Africans still ignore official warnings. Momentum Insure wants to change that by helping people take alerts seriously for their safety and their wallets. Today, we're joined by Dr. Tshepiso Matenji, who is educational psychologist and life coach, to unpack why people brush off weather warnings, how our thinking plays a role, and what simple steps we can take to stay safe and avoid unexpected costs right here on 702 Afternoons. And she is a friend of the show and somebody that I've been chatting to for many years along the career of radio and all the spaces I've been in. Welcome, Dr. Tshepiso. How are you? My excitement when I saw Dogotela is coming back and we are going to be chatting about something so important. So let's look at Tshepiso, what we know from a psychology point of view when it comes to mindset around warnings in general. Maybe not even getting to the weather warnings, but warnings in general. Where are we as a people?
As a people, and let me greet your listeners, and thank you so much for the warm welcome, Relebogile. But I think where we are coming from, particularly with the campaign, Momentum, there's an acknowledgement that in spite of the proliferation of information and warnings that people are given, that there just seems to be a laissez-faire or a disregard for the warnings, and how people are responding to them there seems to be some kind of a distancing, that it will not happen to me, that it might be happening to other people, or maybe let me taste and see. I want to go see for sure for myself. And there just seems to be that ability to disregard what is being said and not even incorporate it in terms of what types of behavior change, what types of ways of thinking would be required of me, and therefore what type of responsibility it will translate into me changing the way that I do things and how I approach them. And as a result, even though the information is there, we end up finding that people are putting themselves and their loved ones in danger. They're incurring costs that are not necessary. They're getting involved in things that actually impact their livelihood and overall quality of life. So in awareness of that, then it means that the conversation has to go deeper to look at the psychology behind what might be the barriers, behind why you can hear that. There's this famous lady on TikTok that whenever she goes on the social media, we know there's a severe weather storm coming. Yet people do not necessarily regard that kind of information in terms of a change in behavior. So we need to go deep and have conversations about what exactly is behind the belief systems that people are having regarding warnings, and what is the resistance that is being created, and how are people able to distance themselves from what is actually happening, and they want to test the reality to see, let me see, maybe I might not be affected in the same way as it is being suggested.
I have to say, doctor, now my automatic thought was re-traumatized, re-overwhelmed. We are all of those things. So when something says, hey, there's a weather warning, it's like, I'll see when I get there. Do you think that just for us, it's easier to kind of bury our heads in the sand than deal with a reality that might not be so great coming upon us?
I would even think that I would go further as saying there's a desensitization that we are used to it. We are used to so many adversities that we are exposed to. So we don't have a heightened awareness in terms of, that means I need to be much more cautious. I need to be much more careful. I need to be discerning and be a bit more critical in terms of how I show up and how I make decisions, and then think about the far-reaching consequences of what I'm doing. But I think also what you're mentioning with regards to trauma, one of the things that we know is that the more you're exposed to adversity, you begin to realize you want to live for the moment, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. You're only focusing on what feels good right now, what needs to happen right now, and worrying about tomorrow. Tomorrow may never come. And that kind of is a protective mechanism as well as a defense mechanism. It might help you to stay in the now and actually live the best version of you right now, or at least live now to the best of your ability. But what it does happen is that it creates a blind spot in that the choices that you're making now, you could actually survive today, but end up compromising the quality of your life and the lives of other significant people in your life, or even perfect strangers, as a result of reckless decisions that you are making. And then going forward, overall, your life is impacted. So we need to be able to recognize that whether it is trauma, whether it is desensitization, whether it's just because anything can happen and you're just trying to live your best life right now, you do want to make sure that you are not negligent, you are not reckless, and you are also not creating things that have far-reaching consequences beyond the now.
In terms of superstitions, I mean, sometimes, not sometimes, but culturally, we will look at rain as a blessing. But we know how quickly rain can turn into a storm, can turn into flooding. Where do those belief systems kind of fit into this picture?
Do you notice also that, especially as a Mopedi woman, we know, or if there's going to be a torrential rain or something is being reported about lightning, we're going to associate it with some kind of bad luck, that there's some evil doing that has befallen whatever community, whatever country, whatever family, and as a result, it's almost justified while it's happening to them. And then you quickly do introspection and say, no, I am good, so it will not happen to me. But there's also a belief that my ancestors will protect me, or whatever ill that is happening in the world is not going to happen to me. So there's multiple layers, there's complexity around it. The bottom line is that whatever beliefs you have, it's creating what is called confirmation bias, and there's different types of confirmation bias. And if I can just get into it, for example.
Please say it again, because I'm obsessed with the term confirmation bias, having heard it a good couple of years ago from Dr. Phil. And it changed my view on so many things, particularly with the work that I do, that you can't walk into looking for information with confirmation bias. So, I need you to preach. Many people suffer with it. We are all vulnerable to it, but just for us to get it into our heads, why it's important to know about.
So if ever I have pre-existing beliefs, and I'm putting myself in it because I don't want people to think, or this is just a psychologist speaking from a Western way of thinking. And as a Mopedi woman, we tend to say, you want to know about witchcraft, you must go to the people in Limpopo. If you have that belief, right? And you are listening to the news or weather report about severe weather. If you are associating it with some kind of supernatural or evil forces, you're going to use that kind of pre-existing belief to then be selective about what makes sense to you, what you remember, and also how it influences the choices you make. And it will also be able to influence what you reject, what you ignore. Because if ever what is being reported contradicts what you already believe, then you reject it, right? But also if it is aligning with what you already believe, then it confirms what you already know, and then it almost gives you some kind of a protective measurement, a mechanism that you can be certain about what you need to do and you are sure. So confirmation bias means that you already have pre-existing beliefs, and they create, how dimas when you're wearing rosy colored lenses. And as a result of that pre-existing beliefs, that's how you look into the world. That's also how you select and pay attention and remember. And then that's also what informs your choices going forward and the decisions that you make. And also, when things contradict it, you tend to have a blind spot to it. You reject it. You might even forget that was said because it's contradictory to what you already believe. That's what confirmation bias is. But with regards to the weather, we want people to be mindful of these different types of confirmation bias. The first one is that all of us are exposed to the news about the weather. All of us consume it. But if you already have pre-existing information or pre-existing beliefs about what's happening with regards to the weather, you end up actually switching the channel. You don't want to listen to that information because you don't think it applies to you. It's happening somewhere in America. It's happening on the N2. I'll never be on the N2. You are not even regarding the fact that that could be a teachable moment for you to go and educate somebody else, or that this adverse weather situation is part of global warming. It could actually befall you where you are in your country, in your province, because you are thinking it's isolated. It's about snow. There's no snow in Limpopo, but there's flooding. Right? There's flooding, there's potholes. So if you are not wanting to inform yourself about global warming and this adverse weather effects, you could actually be making decisions that now put you in harm's way. It might not be showing up as snow, but because you're thinking it's not about me, snow mo Limpopo, you're going around driving in wet weather, you know our infrastructure is falling apart. You get into a pothole, you punch all the wheels, or you lose control because the roads are slippery and you bump somebody and take somebody's life. So part of the confirmation bias is actually having what is called a selective search, where you're very specific and you disregard anything else that is not about what you believe, and you only pay attention to the things that confirm what you believe. And so you end up being blind to information that contradicts or that you don't think is relevant to you. The second one is called a bias that has to do with how you interpret information, a selective interpretation. If you remember the story, Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Oh, the Chris Rock one. Yes.
He when he did his comeback here in Zanele, he talked about selective outrage. He was saying that there's so many things that had happened that people they could have been upset about. And let me say Will Smith could have been upset about. But he was specific about being upset about what he said about his wife, right? So it's like the thing that triggers you, the things that make sense to you, that lingers with you, is the one that confirms that which you already believe, and you disregard anything else. And as a result, your interpretation of it is actually skewed or biased by what you're saying. Let's say, for example, we believe it's witchcraft. Any adverse weather effect has to do with witchcraft, or what's happening, storms in the US is because of there's something evil happening in the US. When it's happening in South Africa, it must be the Cyril weather. If that is your way of thinking, even if there could be something else that challenges that interpretation and actually makes you say that you need to change the way you do things, you're not going to see it that way because you've already predetermined how you want to act, how you make sense of it, and therefore the types of decisions and choices that follow from it are being determined by that. And so what triggers you into action, what triggers you into what you remember, and what makes meaning for you is based on that pre-existing bias, right? So that is selective interpretation.
So Doctor, we need to quickly take a break. Please park the third one, which is very, very important. And when we come back, we'll quickly recap 1 and 2, 20 minutes after 2 o'clock.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
Hi everyone, this is Busi from Soweto. One thing that I love about 702 is how great the presenters are and the information is reliable.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts,
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
When selling a car, there's nothing worse than a long, frustrating process. We Buy Cars knows life's short and time is precious. Sell your car within a day from wherever you find it convenient. Simply complete the online form and We Buy Cars will make it happen. Need a new ride? Explore thousands of vehicles online or in-store. We Buy Cars, South Africa's trusted vehicle partner.
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Elevate your flying experience with Lift Premium. Enjoy even more space, comfort, and convenience with priority boarding, extra baggage allowance, and complimentary lounge access. Visit lift.co.za today.
health starts on the inside. Biogen Multivitamin Plus offers a comprehensive vitamin and mineral supplement designed to support daily energy and immunity, boost mental performance, and combat stress. Available in senior 50 plus and children's gummies too. You can have the whole family covered. Biogen, for the results you want. Visit biogen.co.za to find out how you can get up to 15% off Biogen products with Virgin Active.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
China has been promoting cheaper electric vehicles. There's been deliberate government policy around this. Why is there suddenly no demand for these cars?
China's industry goes through these waves of what I call Darwinian type competition, where literally the fittest survive. If you're looking at China, you'll be staggered to hear there's roughly about 80 odd Chinese EV brands already. I predict that probably in 5 years' time or so, if there's 10 or 15 left, I'll be surprised.
Dr. Martin Davis.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the Africa Energy Forum 2025. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
702.
Series edition.
23 minutes after 2 o'clock, and we continue with our series edition together with Momentum Insure as we unpack why people brush off weather warnings and how our thinking plays a role. Today we're joined by Dr. Tshepiso Matenji, who is an educational psychologist and life coach. And before we went to our ad break, and we encourage you to get your questions in on 011-883-0702 and the WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. We're really just delving deeper into the belief systems that come with certain types of weather and where it all comes from. We have been touching on confirmation bias, and this, doctor, is where we left off.
Yep. What I find interesting about the last area is that whenever we are having conversations around weather, there's always tips that the news reporters give us. Even if you're reading articles, even when stories are covered in the media, there's always tips that people are given to firstly prevent them getting in harm's way, and secondly, to know what to do if a crisis happens. So if there is a flooding, you'll be told, avoid the route. If ever you are on the road, please do not try to cross that low-lying bridge because you'll be washed off by the water. If ever there's a storm, you are told to not go to that area. Yet people, for some reason, do not remember the parts that go with what to do to get safety, or how to prevent danger, and how to correct actions if ever something else befalls them. So what we want people to recognize also about confirmation bias is that it also affects what you recall. You have what is called selective recall, that if you already have distanced yourself and you've discredited or discounted information that contradicts your pre-existing beliefs, even when the strategies to help you to address the difficulties being shared, you're not going to commit it to memory. You're not going to use it to inform your decision-making process. And as a result, you might not even remember. And that's why for a lot of people, when now they are caught in a flash flood or in an emergency because of weather, they are actually dumbfounded. They are caught napping, and they get overwhelmed and go into shock because they hadn't even internalized that information and thought for themselves about, okay, if this was me, how would I handle it? Because all of that information went above their head. So the key thing is, we want you to heed the weather warnings. Pay attention in terms of planning your trips, in terms of planning your days, where you have been given weather warnings. Think about what types of accommodations, what types of corrections, what types of strategies can you put in place to prevent it. Secondly, think about the damage that can be done, whether to your property, whether to your person, whether to other significant people in your life, or even friends and neighbors, right? If you are going out and it's slippery out there and you are still speeding or you're on your phone, recognize that you could cause undue harm to somebody else. So think about the responsibility and the accountability that goes with it. And then thirdly, check your underlying beliefs. What are the things that are actually creating a dissonance, a barrier for you to understanding and taking that responsibility, and even to internalize the strategies that are being shared with you to correct your behavior, particularly around climate change. It is not just something that is done in the Western world. All of us are affected by climate change. And what happens is that sometimes we think the worst thing that can happen is that you will perish, you will die. But actually, there are worse things that can happen where you do survive, but your quality of life is compromised. You become morwalo wa somebody else because you've been damaged, but not fatally, and then it becomes a problem for the rest of your family.
Doctor, there's some questions coming in on the WhatsApp line 0727021702.
Interesting discussion. I think just broadly speaking, I think as a country and even as humans, we tend to ignore the risks and hazards associated with daily living. I think things like driving and speeding and not wearing seatbelts and drunk driving and the risks associated with that, and then occupational safety, not identifying the hazards, not wearing the correct PPE. I saw someone putting up a billboard this afternoon, and there were no harnesses attached to the person because they were working from heights. And I just think, I don't know how we change this. I think it's the long game, and I wish there was a quick fix.
Oh, such a critical thing being observed there, Doctor.
I actually want to say how we change it is that you are an agent. You are an agent for change. When you were mentioning about somebody standing on a high rise on a billboard being able to change something, I see this every morning at our gym where the ladies who are cleaning the lockers at the top of the shelves, they're standing on a stair without somebody holding it. And there's a danger there. They could fall, they could injure themselves. And if you see that agency, if you recognize that you've got personal agency, it's about what do you do in the moment. And one of the things that I do is that I will hold that lady's ladder and I'll ask them, please, can you call your colleague to come and hold this ladder while you are climbing? So we don't have to be passively observing certain things. There are certain things that we can share. And granted, I recognize that not everybody is going to be responsive, let alone receptive to you being given feedback. But where we do have power to educate, where we do have power to correct, to engage, it's an opportunity for us to do it. Through the campaign with Momentum, beginning this conversation is one way of doing it. So don't stop when this conversation stops. Let other people listen to the podcast, engage in the family, let your children know as you are driving, engage the young ones in the car about what would you do with this kind of thing. Scenario planning is one of the things you can introduce so that you get people to think critically about what they take for granted and what they can do to intervene.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And I think we've touched on all types of safety. Let us all be agents for change. Let us all be vigilant with those around us. Sometimes it's not just about awareness. It's also some of the issues that Doctor has touched on. Now, Momentum Insure brings you the Heads Up Weather Series, real stories of how South Africans deal with wild weather. From floods to snowstorms, we often laugh through the chaos, but the truth is extreme weather is becoming more serious, causing real damage to homes, roads, and lives. Join the conversation on Momentum Insure's social channels and learn how you are footing the bill for climate change. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is a non-life insurer and an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply. It's 2:30, time for your latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Relebogile. Good afternoon. I'm Zingisa Chirwa. The KwaZulu-Natal Transport Department has revised down the death toll of an accident involving EFF members to 10. The group was travelling from Umlazi when the accident occurred near Vryheid. Earlier today, authorities said 12 people had died in the accident. The lawyers of former ANC national spokesperson Pule Mabe say they are ready to go to trial in the corruption case but are being held up by the state. Mabe, along with his wife and 5 others, face multiple charges of fraud, money laundering and contraventions of the Public Finance Management Act. In 2017, Mabe's company Enviromobi scored a tender worth 27 million rand to supply 3-wheeler motorbikes to waste pickers in Ekurhuleni. And the City of Joburg's Waste Management Services, Pick It Up, is warning residents not to respond to fake job ads, which are currently circulating on social media and other job sites. It says the fake advert claims to be looking for general workers is an altered version of a legitimate job posting Pick It Up issued in May last year. Those are the headlines this EWN, and more at 3 p.m. or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In the city of Tshwane at this hour, there is bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is in the Hermanstad area on Mpho between Van der Hof and the R80. Also in Irene, slow-moving traffic on the Maypiers Drive. This is approaching Main Road. If you are in Alberton heading towards Joburg, there's an accident scene on the R59 northbound. That's this is before Swartkoppies Road, causing huge delays all the way from Kliprefir Drive. You can actually expect about a 30-minute delay through there, so avoid that route at all costs. Rather get off at Kliprefir Drive and then use Vereniging Road or Kliprefir Drive and rejoin Swartkoppies and the R59 at the Meyersdal area. There's also slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Bowling and Calvin due to faulty traffic lights. Traffic lights also not working in North Riding at CR Swart and Malibongwe Drive. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Need the right tools to run your small business? With Nedbank, you get the latest Visa, MasterCard, and Amex accepting card payment device delivered to you within 48 hours. Enjoy getting your payment straight into your Nedbank account on the same day. Plus, you could get 100% back on the purchase price of the device. Apply on the Nedbank Money app today. Join the bank that's best for your small business. Nedbank, licensed financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Mbali's selfie game just went from this to this. Take your selfie game to A-grade level with the new Samsung Galaxy A56. Enhance your selfies by creating your own custom filter with intelligent visual editing. Simply open your camera, snap a pic, tap the filter icon, tap My Filters, then create filter, and ta-da! Your pic just went from 0 to 100. Galaxy A56. Awesome intelligence is here.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
I'm Telane from PG Glass. Got a chip? We'll fix it with precision, and we offer cash deals on high-quality new windscreens.
Visit pg.co.za today for trusted service.
The Maibuye e-Africa concert returns for its third electrifying edition this month, presented by Billy Monama in partnership with the Joburg Theatre. This musical experience takes place on the 28th and 29th of June. He spoke about it when he was here for 702 Unplugged. Now, the lineup features 6 show-stopping guest artists: Zoe Mudiga, Judas Sipuma, Male, Barita, and the iconic Soul Brothers, each bringing their unique voice to this powerful celebration of culture and identity. Tickets are available from webtickets.co.za.
Coming up
on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive with John Perlman is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I am doing well, and I have to ask a question. We were chatting earlier in our conversation around severe weather warnings and why, as South Africans, we don't really respond to them. But the topic of confirmation bias came up. Have you heard of that phrase before?
Yes, I have. I'm not always sure I know what it means, so help me.
I will do my best. So confirmation bias basically means that when you want to find out something, you already have a bias towards what you already believed. So you're more likely to now, it's like the person who believes that the earth is flat. The likelihood is when they are looking online on whether the earth is round or flat, they are going to search for the things that confirm their already existing bias,
right,
as opposed to looking for the facts that say this is proof that the earth is flat or round. And the confirmation bias can also apply to like selective memory of how things happen because of what you wanted to believe. So I was curious, especially it being Youth Month and us trying to empower everybody, being a journalist, how did you prevent yourself from confirmation bias in the work that you've done?
That's a huge one. I mean, I think what you're pointing to is quite a battle, actually. Because I remember after the first American election won by Donald Trump, in other words, 2016, I
Yep.
realized that the sources I was going to read about the election were very much people whose views in broad terms would accord with, first of all, Hillary Clinton,
Yes.
the Democrats, in other words, and probably, if I was a voter there, that would be where my choice lies as well.
Yes.
So I searched out some more conservative feeds to add to my it was then Twitter, to my what do you call it, my timeline.
Yes, yes.
Just to make sure I was reading different, but it was a challenge. I was having to kind of read against the tide a little bit. And I was very aware of that. Oh, okay, you must read this whole article, even though you're already reading it, going, come on, I know that, and huffing and puffing a little bit. So there is that. The other thing, though, to throw into the mix is I'm a bit of a doom scroller. So
what does that mean?
So doom scrolling is where you read things that make you feel worse.
Oh my
they
God!
Don't, like if there's something like, let's say, we're heading for stage 8 load shedding.
Yes.
Which is somebody throws out, then it's not going to happen.
Then you go down the rabbit hole.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, what about?
So what you call rabbit hole, I call doom scrolling. So it's a long answer to your short question, but as a journalist, I had to battle all these things: the doom scroller, the confirmation bias that you've explained so well. A hot mess.
And then one more question, because we're still in our Thursday youth takeovers.
Yes.
Have a newsreader to come through and a host. Now, us being radio hosts, our shows are personality driven.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the hosts here are actual journalists. How do you find the balance when you are bringing stories to the show between being a host who is human, has a view, and presenting facts?
So I was always a journalist first, because that's how I came to this.
I've never been a journalist, and I probably won't become one.
Well, I mean, who's to say,
Actually.
But, your
Yes.
life has already taken some interesting twists. So I was a journalist first. So I think the harder part for me, certainly when I came here, was to
have an opinion.
Add more. Well, no, I've always had opinions and express them, less so at the SABC because of them being a public broadcaster. But I think that kind of personality stuff I had to add to perhaps my more journalistic instincts. But
I see.
It's been a long road, so I don't remember every pit stop.
I think I had to be the opposite, where I had to say there's certain conversations I have to approach prior in terms of the information I'm consuming from a very neutral perspective, when I'm very clear on what my view is, because my work has always been personality driven, if not reading a script. But very interesting. Thank you for indulging me. What's coming up on your show today?
So there's a lot going on as always. A very important story that's come up today because SARS has been raiding people that are involved in the illegal diesel business. We're going to talk to the South African Petroleum Industry Association, very much from the perspective of how much might this affect motorists, because part of this illicit operation is cutting diesel with paraffin. And the implications of that for your engines are not good. That will do it 10 to 4. Joburg Roads agencies released their plan of what they're going to fix with this year's allocation of money. We'll look at that in a lot more detail. I think it's an important one. We've been doing every Tuesday in partnership with Volvo a green tip, looking at people who are doing interesting things around renewables and various aspects of, a greener planet. We'll talk to somebody who is using a byproduct from the manufacture of paper.
Ooh.
You'll never guess what for, and we don't have time for your 100 guesses, for building roads.
I thought you were going to say for making brick-like materials for building houses.
Okay, so
that's
close.
amazing.
So no, close. I mean, you're much closer than I was. I had a guess, and then eventually they had to call it off because I wasn't getting anywhere close to guessing correctly. And we've got all the breaking news. The Senzo Mayiwa trial, we'll pick up on that at some point in the show, depending on when court adjourns. Then we're going to ask people, what's the most unexpected thing that made you cry recently?
Ooh. Mine was a TikTok video of a man holding his newborn, and he's speaking about, he just is in awe of the fact that he made a new person with a head, and he's describing and with a British accent, he's like, I made that bomb. It was me and my wife. I mean, I didn't do the hard work, but how amazing. These two little legs that are going to walk one day, I made them. And that made me cry, because just how amazing is it?
Yeah.
That he's like, just one night, a few minutes, and now there's a whole person.
Few minutes, okay.
And that made me cry.
There,
I was so emotional at the fact that...
But that's wonderful, because that's a different way of telling one of the oldest stories in humankind.
Yeah.
So...
We forget sometimes. So I got teary at just the miracle of life. John Perlman hosting 702 Drive from 3 to 6 p.m.
Calling all football fans. Score goals galore with Hollywood bets in a super football showdown. The finest clubs in the world will go head-to-head to be crowned the best of the best. Ready for your chance to strike it big? Get in on the thrilling action and take a shot at a share of 100,000 Rand in cash or betting vouchers. Bet 10 Rand or more on any club World Cup fixture between June and July 2025. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Momentum Insure presents the Heads Up Weather Series. A look at how South Africans navigate unpredictable weather. One moment it's sunny, the next it's levels of chaos. But beyond the humor lies risk to our homes, roads, and safety. Let's stop ignoring those alerts. Join the conversation on Momentum Insure's social channels and learn how you are footing the bill for climate change. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is a non-life insurer and an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Your workday calls for more capability, more grit, more getting it done. Your weekends demand more freedom, more pushing the boundaries. And the all-new GWMP 300 Bucky is where it all comes together. Ring it on in the all-new GWMP 300 from 6,999 per month. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and to book a test drive. Go with more. Go with GWM.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
With 50% off on limited Tennis Town tickets, no wonder Amex card members are so thrilled. Enjoy a world-class tennis experience at Monte Casino between 11 and 13 July 2025. Buy your tickets for Amex Tennis Town online today at howler.co.za for the Championships Wimbledon experience with the Mzansi advantage. Tennis is better with Amex.
702.
The car feature.
15 minutes to 3 o'clock, time for the car feature on 702 Afternoons. And today we're talking about what young drivers are favoring when it comes to used and new vehicles. Today it's all about all you young folks this Youth Month. And we're joined by Andrew Hibbert, Auto Data Analyst at Lightstone. We take your calls on 011 8830 702 and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Relebogile, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you for having me.
So let's kick off with what the stats currently say, because we do know over the past few years, the market when it comes to cars has changed quite a bit with the entry of the Chinese brands, cheaper options, and maybe from my view, entry levels are not as entry as they used to be.
Yeah, so obviously this study was conducted over both new and used vehicle sales. So it's not just the new vehicle sales. And obviously in the new vehicle space, we've seen a number of changes over the last couple of years. Obviously the introduction of numerous Chinese brands, particularly over the last 2 years. But at the same time, we've had a number of brands disappear from the country as manufacturers globally change their strategy. An example of this would be General Motors stopping their production of right-hand drive vehicles and pulling the Chevrolet brand from South Africa, the Holden brand from Australia, etc. And obviously this leaves a gap in the market, which existing as well as new brands are able to leverage and make the most of.
Sure. Okay. So knowing what we know, when we think of your young drivers, back in the day, my first car, City Golf, 4 gears, no aircon, not even a CD-ROM player, but that car took me far. What are the young people looking at? Let's kick off with brand new.
Well, from a new perspective, we're obviously seeing a brand like Suzuki, which is making leaps and bounds in the marketplace at the moment, particularly at the lower end of the price points. There are not very few manufacturers operating in that sub 250,000 Rand price point at the moment with respect to new vehicles, and obviously Suzuki is very competitive in that space, as well as a number of Chinese brands who are offering things like crossover SUVs, brands like Chery and Jetour is coming in at under 500,000. I think Caval's also coming into that kind of price bracket. Obviously, new vehicles, you're looking at, if you look at an overall average price of a new vehicle at the moment in the South African market, you're looking at over 500,000 Rand for a vehicle. So anything under that is essentially competitively priced.
Okay, and if we are looking at the new vehicles, are you noticing any specific split between what men and women are looking at?
Not really, especially in the younger market. Whereas in your older demographics, you're tending to find a push towards your bigger SUVs and even double cabs are entering that kind of space as a recreational passenger vehicle, family car. Whereas in the past, that wasn't necessarily the case. Whereas in the younger demographic, there's still very much a demand for your hatchbacks. And traditionally, I mean, you mentioned the City Golf, and I can relate to that because that was my first car as well. But you know, the small hatchback has always been a big pull for younger people, as it comes in at a fairly cost-effective price point.
Let's now talk about used vehicles. And I don't know if you have a view on where the Chinese brands are going to find themselves in terms of used vehicles, because they're fairly new within the next 10 to 20 years. But what are you seeing there, and what are you observing around the new versus used?
So if I had to take a look at, if we go back to where the study started and looking at the overall perspective and Volkswagen coming and retaining its top spot for the last 10 years, in the used vehicle space, it's always important to remember that we are considering vehicles that essentially are 1 to 10 years old. And Volkswagen has sold more passenger cars this century than any other brand. And obviously that dictates that there are more Volkswagens on the road, and hence there are potentially more Volkswagens available for used vehicle sales. What we're going to be seeing in the next 10 years, as the likes of Suzuki and the Chinese brands ramp up their market share, potentially, there will be more of those vehicles in the space, and there's more opportunity for those vehicles to enjoy greater success within the used vehicle market.
When a young person is listening at the moment, can you maybe just mention any of the relevant trends that they all need to be aware of before they go out and actually, sign those offer to purchases and get that car?
Oh, that's difficult. That's not really where my little expertise lies. But the kinds of things we're seeing within the trends we're seeing within the space of the under 35 demographic, there's a big switch towards more technological, you can call them specifications or toys, if you so wish, with respect to infotainment systems and the like. And what we're seeing now is there's a lot more to offer. And you spoke about a City Golf with no CD player, no aircon. A large portion of most of your vehicles now are coming at the very least with an aircon. Most have some sort of radio system allowing for MP3 or Bluetooth connectivity. But there is a definite leaning towards the more technologically advanced vehicles in terms of the apps and the Apple and Android linkage options. And what you're finding now is you're starting to see a lot more of the vehicles coming in at those lower price points that offer these options as standard, whereas in the past they were either an add-on extra or they weren't available at all.
And I think it's quite nice that one can go onto the market knowing that the basics are already there. The car might be smaller and it might not be of a big fancy German brand, but you'll know you're getting the basics with it. There is a question here from Badimo, and I'm not sure, Andrew, if it's your jurisdiction or you can just share your view. But they say, Relebogile guest, is it advisable to buy discounted vehicles, talking about maintenance-wise? I'm not sure I'm getting the full question there with regards to maintenance, but maybe, Andrew, you can have a view on buying a discounted vehicle, if it's a good idea or not. I bought my vehicle discounted, and the reason I did that is searching to see why it was discounted, and that's because there was a facelift that had just come out, and I was comfortable with the previous version. What are your thoughts, Andrew?
I think it comes down to whether you're buying that discounted vehicle as a second-hand vehicle or as a new vehicle. And as you say, generally speaking, you buy that new vehicle, if you've got the option for the maintenance plan, then you've got a little bit of recourse if something does happen. Where it becomes a little bit of a more of a grey area is when you're buying that used vehicle and you only got the remainder of the maintenance plan. Do you then take an extension on the maintenance plan? And if you're buying a vehicle that's already out of your warranty and or service plan and maintenance plan, do you then take it up, or do you make provisions to save that money in order to facilitate the service and the maintenance going forward?
And then as we just wrap up the conversation, Andrew, share with us just in terms of the Volkswagen, it being the top choice for young buyers. What do you think makes the brand so appealing to this age group?
I think that you've got the Polo and the Polo Vivo predominantly have been competitively priced, and as far as the body shape goes, you've spoken about the hatch as the predominant go-to amongst younger consumers. And I think these two vehicle types, allied to a number of others in the Volkswagen product lineup, and you start thinking about things like the T-Roc and T-Cross and your smaller crossover SUVs, and these continue to appeal to the younger demographic.
Then the data is showing a growing trend of more women financing vehicles. What do you think is driving this, and how is the industry responding?
I think it's an indication of a growing independence amongst female buyers and the larger role that this particular group is playing within the domestic economy. I think it's a big sign of that they are that there's an option. I mean, we've got a Women's Month coming up in a couple of months' time, and there's normally a lot of excitement and information that flows around that as well.
If we look at the new versus used cars, what are some of the factors that you would say influence young buyers? My biggest influence back then in the day was my father, because we didn't have access to info like we do now. And his main thing that he kept saying is it's not worth buying a new car if you don't need to. Secondhand can be perfectly fine.
I think there's still an aspiration associated with buying a new car. And it's always nice to say that you've owned a new car. There are a number of people who subscribe to the same thought process that your dad did. You purchased that new car, and the most expensive couple of kilometers are those that you drive off the lot. But at the end of the day, I think the big challenge for younger buyers is finding something that's affordable, because you don't want to end up putting yourself into an untenable position in terms of debt. But there's obviously the affordability of the vehicle allied to to the spec level on what you are purchasing. And as we move forward into the next couple of years, you'll start seeing these new vehicles that are coming out now with advanced levels of technology, etc. These will now be pulling into the used vehicle space more frequently in the next couple of years, and so we'll see them pushing through the new used vehicle space as well.
Indeed. And Andrew, having said what I said about buying used vehicles, there's nothing like a new car smell. So if you're going to aspire to a new car, you got to do it at least once in your life. I must say that new car smell is the best.
No, it's definitely something to appreciate.
Andrew Hibbert, thank you so much for your time on 702 Afternoons Car Feature.
It's a tough day for Mark. Tight deadlines and challenges everywhere. But Mark can rest easy, because when he bought his Hino 700 2845 truck tractor, he received a complimentary service plan covering up to 210,000 kilometers for short haul and up to 280,000 kilometers for long haul. Nice one, Mark. Visit your dealer today to find out more about this limited time offer. Hino, all the way. T's and C's apply.
With Youth Employment Service, yes, your business doesn't just tick boxes. You shift real lives. You build real futures. Communities feel it, and so does your business. That multiply effect is real. It's measurable, and it starts with you. Yes has created over 188,000 full-time quality work experiences. When you hire youth, you multiply that impact, create youth jobs, and help the youth become active in the economy and your business. Make this Youth Month count. One job, countless futures. Visit yes4youth.co.za, the number 4. Yes, the number 4youth.co.za, and join today.
Quiet, please.
The Wimbledon experience in Mzansi is back at Amex Tennis Town Monte Casino between 11 and 13 July 2025. Enjoy VIP hospitality, the ultimate big screen experience, and more than just strawberries and cream. Buy your tickets now using your Amex card on Howler and get 50% off on limited tickets. Amex Tennis Town, the Championships Wimbledon experience with the Mzansi advantage. Tennis is better with Amex.
Relebogile is on X at Relebogile M.
Thank you so much for joining us on 702 Afternoon. So many conversations that happened today. Don't worry if you joined in late. PrimeMediaPlus.com or download the Prime Media app. And I have to say, guys, we've got so many submissions for newsreader and host. Stay tuned for our Thursday youth takeovers on 702 Afternoons. It's 3 o'clock.
This is EWN.
KZN accident death toll revised down to 10, and Pule Mabe's lawyers ready for trial blame state for delays. Good afternoon, I'm Zingisa Chirwa. The KwaZulu-Natal Transport Department has revised down the death toll of an accident involving EFF members to 10. The group was travelling from Umlazi